that's me, Tracy. I am coming to you today because I have always wanted to have my own cooking show, and since the world isn't just going to hand me my own cooking show, I figured I would just make my own. So as you can see, I am not in a kitchen, so we will obviously not be cooking today for my very first time. But this very first go around, I just wanted to talk to everybody about what I like to call naked ingredients. So when you're cooking, it's really important to incorporate certain naked ingredients into the things that you cook to escalate the flavors or depthen the flavors or just, create a more wholesome, balanced meal, a balanced dish. So I'm just going to touch on a few basics here. I have my little bowl of goodies here. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, which this is probably going to seem obvious, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't cook with these, is herbs. Fresh herbs, dried herbs, whichever kind of herbs you like. Also, the kind of dish that you're cooking can benefit from one or the other, just depending. So the two that I wanted to talk about today are basil. This is sweet basil. This is a really great herb to use if you are cooking dishes where you really want a very fresh aspect to the flavors. So a lot of summery dishes, it can be even incorporated into salads. Sometimes when you go out to eat and you have a salad that just really tastes a lot better than a salad you feel like you can make at home, sometimes it's because they actually chop up fresh herbs in the salad and it just takes it to a whole nother level. So fresh basil can really, really be good for things like that. So it smells really good. So that's the first herb I wanted to talk to you about. The second herb is fresh thyme. Fresh thyme is it's very different than basil, but it can also, like I said, really depthen the flavor of the things that you're cooking. So this is going to add a lot more of a woodsy, earthy flavor to the things that you cook it with. So a really great thing to cook fresh thyme in is, or dried thyme for that matter, is stews. Like say you're cooking a fall or winter stew. Sometimes you can even use it in summery soups, but it's going to add a very earthy flavor to it. So if you're making a stew that has things like, say, squashes or beef or something like that, this can really, really just make it super tasty. All right. This is another one that's going to seem like, Tracy, this is super obvious, but another naked ingredient that is really important are onions or garlic or things like that. I have a couple of different kinds of onions here. I have just a basic yellow onion that you can really use for so many different circumstances. You can use an onion as a base for just a vegetable saute. You can use it as a base for a stew or a soup. You can, you name it, you can use a yellow onion anywhere. You can have it fresh cut with something, although sometimes it's good to do a red onion for that, but yellow onion too. Or you can, cook it down. You can really make it so they're transparent and the flavor just ekes out into whatever you're cooking. Just depends. Another option to the very basic onion, though, that I think sometimes people are afraid to branch out in the onion realm. This is the world I live in, branching out in the onion realm. But an onion that I really like to cook with is the shallot. I have two shallots. Shallots are really neat to cook with because they're slightly milder, but they still have just as much flavor as, other kinds of onions, like a yellow onion, a sweet onion, a red onion. So these are also really great to incorporate with what you're cooking. For example, I really like to use shallots when I'm cooking a risotto. It just adds a very different dynamic to the flavor of the risotto by using a different onion. So it's really cool. If you change up the things that seem so basic, you can really, you can change up the flavors of your dishes and really give them variety. That's the word I was looking for, variety. Moving on. Another really great thing to do after you have finished cooking something is add something at the very top as kind of a garnish, but not just a garnish, but something that's going to add a crunch element to it. So when you're cooking, you want to make sure that you incorporate lots of different textures. So, for example, if you're going to have something really creamy and thick, you want to also have something incorporated in there that's going to give it a crunch. So you have a texture contrast. Sometimes if you have something that's all the same texture, it's going to come out bland even if you've used really great flavors. So what I have here as an example of crunch is, this probably looks like another herb, but it's not. This is cress. Or I think they're called pea shoots also, cress or pea shoots. You can sprinkle those on top, and you'll do the leaves and the stems, and they just really add an element of crunch to it. And it also makes your dish look really pretty. Like I said, like a garnish is on it, but it's also part of the food. So cress is really good for that, or I don't know if you can see it, it's just this little doober and all his friends. But that can really heighten the complexity of your dish. Another great thing that people don't typically use very often as a garnish, but you can, and it really adds an element of crunch, is radishes. If you really thinly slice those radishes, they have a tiny bit of spice to it, an earthy flavor, and they add that crunch, that element of crunch. And there's one last naked ingredient that I wanted to share with you guys today, and this is one of my favorites. I use it for all kinds of different things. Simple things, complex things, the lemon. Just the lemon. So the lemon is really great. You're thinking like, oh, all I really ever do is put that in my water, but you can actually really, like I said, heighten the flavor of your dish. But instead of just heightening the flavor, what this is going to do is this is going to add a brightness to whatever you're cooking. So say you're cooking a summer dish that's going to involve rice, and you're going to put something on top of a bed of rice. Sometimes if you take this squeeze of lemon and just squeeze it over that fresh white jasmine rice, it's just going to brighten everything. And then the food that you put on top of that rice is going to soak up that lemon flavor, and it's just going to brighten everything. So every flavor that you've worked so hard to incorporate in this dish is just going to be brightened. It's going to add a little bit of zing and a pop, kind of. So, use it where you don't feel comfortable, because, that's where it's going to stand out the most. I mean, you're going to want to avoid things that have very rich, like things that have more, you aren't going to want to use this on something that involves a lot of like stew beef or something like that. But, in so many other circumstances, you can really use the lemons. Risottos, rices, you can squeeze it on top of a salad, you can add it to a soup, all kinds of good stuff. And especially if you add it at the end, it keeps that zing. So lemons are really great. Oh, that was not my last ingredient of naked ingredients. This other one is wine. So cooking with wine can also really add some complexity to your flavor profiles of your food. Plus, you get to drink it while you're cooking, which I really feel like is an added bonus. I picked a Pinot Grigio here because not only is that what I like to drink, but I think it goes really well with a lot of summer dishes that you would want to cook wine with. White wines typically tend to be something that I gravitate more towards during the summer. I drink a lot more red wine in the winter. But I just picked this Pinot Grigio, Caposaldo Pinot Grigio. This is really great because a lot of times when you cook with wine, the alcohol will evaporate out, but then you're left with this very unique flavor that you don't find in just your run-of-the-mill dish. So it's kind of a great way if you're cooking for people like family or friends and you kind of want to wow them and just, even create a flavor in there that they can't necessarily recognize, but they think, wow, this is really good. And then you can serve up the rest of the wine that you didn't use for dinner, and it's delicious. So anyway, that was my very first cooking show episode, I guess. I just wanted to basically talk with you guys about naked ingredients. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and hopefully my next video will be actually cooking and, you know, making something to eat. So I hope you all enjoyed it, and have a wonderful day.